Welcome back to yet another episode of your Re-Educated podcast. Today we have a great episode for you. I'm speaking with Carly Snedeker. She is a dedicated yoga instructor and mindfulness coach based in Zurich, Switzerland. With a passion for promoting well-being, she specializes in one-on-one instruction and offers tailored programs for individuals and teams in both small businesses and corporate settings. Her work extends beyond traditional yoga teaching. She provides breast cancer counseling, helping individuals navigate the physical and emotional challenges of their journeys. By integrating mindfulness practices into her yoga sessions, she empowers her clients to invest in their health and well-being, fostering resilience and mindfulness in everyday life. The ongoing challenge of this show is I yet yearn to read one of these bios without making a single mistake. And I swear every episode I get closer, but I never hit it. But I'm like, I am not changing or editing it until I get it right every time. You just don't get practice reading out loud, you know?
No,
I never read out loud. And this is the only time. And it's so hard. I was almost there. But how are you doing today?
Yeah. I'm great. I'm good. I've been through a crazy last couple of years, but I have to say I'm pretty amazing right now as far as health and getting my my mind where I want it to be, and emotionally, mentally, things are great. Yeah.
I mean, it's been almost a month and a half since I met you at Kaleido. Yes. Which was a phenomenal conference, and this whole season has been covering all the lovely people that I met. What was that experience like for you?
Well, hey, that was really interesting for me because I showed up and didn't know what to expect, and I was just blown away. I was overwhelmed with the diversity and the so many interesting people. And I was just overwhelmed because I wanted to speak with everybody. I wanted to get to know everybody. I wanted to hear their stories. And I was there as the yoga teacher. So, Naveen, who is one of the coordinators of Kaleido, he said, at the very beginning, he said, it's like building a village. And we each play our role. We have the cooks, and we have the economists, and we have the artists, and we have all of these people. And so I kind of forgot about my role in the village in the beginning. And then I taught my first yoga class in the morning, and I realized getting up early and greeting the day, sort of thinking about how do I want to prepare these people who have come to my class for the day ahead, because you're taking in a lot of information, and how do we want to enter the day? What is the intention we want to set for ourselves? And I just kind of fell into my role right then and there. And it was like, I'm going to be the yoga teacher. And the yoga teacher is someone who sort of sets the tone and who puts out his or her sensors or her feelers to what people need. And what was really cool was I had the experience of, the coordinator said, why don't one of the days, let's have a few volunteers who will be open to people coming to them and speaking to them if they have something they want to share. And I put my hand up, and I was like, yeah, I think this is part of the job of a yoga teacher, to be available. And the other thing that happened for me was I kind of came out of this anxious place within myself, and I settled and went, okay, the yoga teacher, she's quiet, she's receptive, and it was just a sense of being and just being present, and that was really important for me because I don't know if we'll go into this, but most of my life, I've dealt with anxiety. I've had a lot of, I've lived in kind of a mode of, I call it survival mode. And it comes from my childhood. It comes from my upbringing. And so to turn off this anxiousness, which is something I'm really working on right now in my life. This is critical for me to be able to listen, because, if you're in fight or flight response, you can't listen. You just have to find that peace within yourself so that you can play your role. And so it was really cool. I'm glad you asked that question, because that was really, for me, it was, I kind of went through the days when we were at Kaleido, and I went, remember, you're the yoga teacher. You don't have to be anything else. Just be the yoga teacher, be a friend, and you can play other roles, but that's your main role here. That's what you're doing. So it simplifies things, when you know what you're doing, your role. Yeah.
In the bigger piece. That's interesting. I feel like I didn't necessarily have that experience. And I think large part of that is because I wasn't really, holding a class or really holding the space. And I think that is one of the differences, I think, also as you age and you start to kind of know who you are and what you bring to the table. You no longer are constantly in this state of exploration of like, who am I? What do I need to be? Who can I be? And you start to have like a deeper sense of knowledge of who you are and what you offer in different spaces. And you can kind of just like be a tree and rooted in that. I think about that about Tony. He was I've talked about him probably on every episode, but Tony's this amazing person who plays music and he lives every aspect. I can't even say he plays one instrument. I mean, any instrument you throw at him, music just speaks through his body. And I would say that he knows deeply who he is. I mean, he doesn't try to be an intellect. He is who he is. And I feel like that sense of security within himself is like an umbrella for everyone who needs like shelter for a little bit. And I think that is one of the most beautiful parts about finding out who you are as you get older. Do you feel like there's like that has been a part of your journey to outside of also just Kaleido to kind of, bring that peace?
Yeah, I do. I feel that it's always surprising whenever I find myself in a place of kind of in a wisdom position, like, oh, I have wisdom. Since when did I earn this? As the wisdom person, like the person who's sharing life experience. And because, I am 51 years old, but sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I've ever bypassed 30. I feel like I'm still in this young mind and this young body. But yeah, sure, the experience it's incredible to be able to guide people and to be able to with certainty to say, from my experience, I know this, and I'm going to offer something to you that I am almost positive it's like one of those fundamental rules of life that I think maybe you want to look at and consider. It's really cool. It's actually really cool to be here in this place now. Yeah.
It's a transition to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am someone who has something to offer. I think I've always tried to take this mindset of a student of like, what can I learn from everyone? But sometimes I get placed into a situation where it's like, well, I also know a little bit of what I'm talking about. And I think that transition can be, what was that transition like for you? I'm really curious. Like, when do you feel like that started coming? And was it weird at first?
Well, I actually, I have to say in the last probably 2.5 years, I've gone through a major, I call it kind of like a metamorphosis for sure. I remember sometimes sitting in my yoga class and speaking to my students and just saying, this is this age, or I don't know, this time where we do make this transition and we do feel it happening. This is really, it's like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. And I always was saying this in my yoga classes. And it's so funny because I remember, 2 years ago, I was saying this. This was before I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was, I was just sitting there saying, like this is an amazing time because I teach a lot of women my age. So we're kind of in this transformational time in life. And they were kind of negative about it. Like, oh, I don't like that this is happening. I can't sleep well and my body is changing and all these things are happening. And I'm like, but there are beautiful things too. There's so much that's transforming. You're taking the things from before and it's like alchemy, it's changing into something beautiful. We are all going to be butterflies. And, and, and just along those lines, I really felt this, kind of opening. It was like something opening inside of me. Almost, it's almost like I had little fissures, like little cracks beginning to open inside of myself. And I think my soul was just ready or my soul, my wisdom, I don't know what you want to call it, but it wanted to come out and it wanted to shine. So it was something that there was parts of me that I kept closed for such a long time. I was so protective. I was always protecting myself. And I finally started to listen, and I had this sort of, we all have intuition. We're born with this amazing tool, instinct, intuition. It's speaking to us all the time, but society, the educational system, the religion, parents, friends, family, sometimes they're sort of saying, you can't trust yourself. You can't trust that intuition. So you start to shut it down a little bit. And I feel like I did so much of this shutting down my instincts, my intuition. And for years and years and years, although I would get I'd hear little whispers from it. It was like, come on, listen to me. Hear what I have to say. I'm trying to guide you. And this awakening was when I started to listen, and I started opening more and more, and things were happening. People were coming into my life that were really changing things for me. And I don't know. I started thinking differently. I was craving more, just more knowledge and more understanding, and I didn't really have a kind of a spiritual aspect to my life up until a few years ago. And I had yoga, and yoga was the beginning of my, I think this time of awakening. I think yoga was sort of like a trigger to begin this opening, but it needed to go to another level, and it started happening.
I have a question for you, because I think I've been asking this question to people, and it's been getting really interesting responses. But I've been asking, if you were to write a book about yourself and you had to split segments of your life into different chapters, how many chapters would you have? And it's been fascinating to hear what different people have to say. One, I'm really curious what your answer is. And then two, I'm really curious to understand, you talked a lot about how you do a lot of yoga with women your age. And something I'm just so interested about is that, have you seen like general trends for, maybe if you could take 50 people's chapters and they were like, okay, well, there seems to be a similar, this decade of their lives looks like X, Y, and Z for these people. Like, I mean, what have you noticed to be similar in different periods of people's lives? And then, so I guess we could start with, how many chapters would you say your book has?
Oh, that's tough. I would like to say it has many chapters, but right now, I would say, because I'm really looking at my life in this way, I would say there are 2 chapters. So everything that I've just gone through, the experiences I've just been having, there's the before and the way my life was before. And now and it's cancer, so it's like before cancer and it's after cancer. And I guess the reason I say there are only 2 chapters is because I've also been, I've been in contact with some, energetic people who have also been guiding me. And it's funny because I've had, I saw 2 energy healers whenever I was going through my cancer treatment. And there was a shaman who came up to me on the street one day, and I had a long conversation with this woman. She was, it was just an interesting interaction we had. And all 3 of those people said to me that I should think about just cutting, like sort of making a fresh cut from the past and moving on from what was before, and move on from like the point of getting cancer and going through the learning that I went through, and the yeah. So it's just sort of like this before and after. I don't know. It sounds so simplistic, but I think there are going to be a lot of chapters coming for me now in this time, in the post cancer. Yeah. Yeah. So that I'm sure I don't know. I don't know if you've had other people who have said only 2 chapters.
No, that's
Everybody's got their
fascinating.
own book to write, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
it must have been such a transformative experience. I mean, I, I'm really excited to get into the yoga and connect how that's helped you navigate this process. But maybe we can start. I think this would be a good place to maybe start at what that experience was like. I think so. I want to share something first. So I had one of my best friends watch this podcast, and I was just asking him to give me an honest feedback on what he thought. And he's someone I trust a lot. And he said something along the lines of, I feel like you intellectualize a lot of the conversations, and there's a missing human piece of a lot of this. We talk about pedagogy, neuroscience, we talk about all these things, and I think sometimes I take all these notes and I have these questions written up, and I have this fear of losing control, of letting the conversation truly take its like infinite nature and let it go wherever it wants. And so out of that fear, I'm always taking notes. My brain is always in 2 different places. What is this conversation right now, and where do I want it to go? That I sometimes I lose that opportunity to like lose myself in the conversation. And it's something I'm trying to do differently this time. I closed my journal unless I have to write something. I've closed all the notes, and I'm trying to just fully be present in the conversation, let it go where it wants. And in the fear of losing this control extends to so many different areas of my life. I feel that anytime I get really sick, I mean, anytime my goals get further, anytime something happens that I'm not in control of, I'm like, I'm not in control of my life. What's going on? I don't know if I'm ready to kind of take this on. And I realize whether it's getting health insurance, whether when I'm traveling, it's all these things that give you the proxy of making you feel like you're in control. I've been thinking about it. When I drive a car, I'm going at 85 miles per hour. But I put my seatbelt on, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm good. I put my seatbelt on. Nothing can touch me, right? I mean, I'm going at 85, 90 miles per hour, but I have my seatbelt on, right? We have all these ways that our brain is like, you are safe. Don't worry about it. But the true reality of it is you're actually not all that in control. Anything can happen at any moment. And I think constantly sitting in that world can be so overwhelming. And so I'm first curious I really want to touch on this and understand what your process was like in a lot of ways to relinquish control. I think a lot of the process is to understand this is where my body's at. If I could pick, it wouldn't be here, but it is. And now I have to roll with the dice that were given to me. I don't get to pick which dice I'm rolling. And so I want to first understand, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what were the first few days or weeks like when you first found out? Was it shock, surprise? I mean, what was it like?
Well, it's funny because I'm one of these people that, I mean, like I said, I lived most of my life up until this change that was happening in survival mode. So I think that's if you're living in survival mode, you're very much controlling every aspect of your life. You're very much in control. And to the point, I was traveling this summer, and I was observing myself in my travels. Like at the airport, I am checking to make sure I have my passport, and I'm repacking my bag that is going to be with me on the airplane that has all my stuff in it. Oh, do I have water? Do I have snacks? And I've been like this my whole life. It's always been, okay, and what comes next? And did I make my to-do list for today? And did I, it's like control, 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 everything. And so really, the day that I found the lump in my breast I don't know, it was almost like, I almost wasn't that surprised. I was like, you need this, Carly. You need this. You need to change. You can't be living in this hyper vigilant state all the time. And that, for me, I think a lot of us in society, we are so intense and we are so vigilant and we are always checking everything that we get sick. I mean, eventually you're at such a high level of this it's a stress. I mean, your nervous system is always fired up. You're always in flight, fight or flight mode. And so, it was like, I always see it like cancer came to me and grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me hard. And it just shook me and said, Carly, this isn't working anymore. You need to chill. You need to relax. You need to make some changes in your life. And the funny thing is, it's not funny actually, but I got diagnosed. I actually had the diagnosis email in my inbox on the morning of my 50th birthday. So I found the lump, and like I said, it was almost like I wasn't even that surprised. But then I was just sort of like, oh, wow, okay, this is happening. This is actually happening, because it's kind of, when we think of cancer, it's always like, well, I know it happens to a lot of people, but it's probably not going to happen to me. I'm going to live to 100. I mean, I take in this hypervigilance, and you maybe can relate to this, but in this hypervigilant, intense way of living, I always exercised. I always ate the right foods. I did my yoga. I did my meditation. I ticked all my boxes. I did it all. And so I never thought I'd get cancer. I'm a yoga teacher. Okay. So the reality is this happened, and it was really like the first step was going and having the ultrasound and the mammogram. And I knew it wasn't good. I mean, I could tell by just watching the radiologist as she was doing these tests, and she even like pushed her meeting, like a little bit further ahead so that she could complete everything, because it didn't look good. And I'm lying there and I'm reeling, I don't even know where to put my brain. I mean, my brain is just like going in circles. And then so I had to get through a few days because I had my birthday coming up, my 50th birthday. We had planned, my husband had kind of organized a small party. I think there were like 40 people coming to a birthday party. And I was like, oh boy, this is in 2 days. How am I going to get through that? Because I can't announce on this day that this is going on. So I got through those next days, and then everything was coming in. Then I opened up that email the next day after my birthday. I started reading all of this this text that I didn't really understand. And then I was Googling, and everything sounded horrible. It was pretty much the worst breast cancer you can get. And I was not really understanding everything, because it's hard to read these kinds of diagnoses that it's like a foreign language. So I called my husband, and I am very lucky because my husband is a medical researcher. So he came home, we looked at this together, he was explaining things to me. It was these moments in these first couple of days were like so vivid, and I will never forget them. I mean, it's just like you are planted right into your present moment harder than I was so present in all of these moments. It was just like everything I could taste, I could smell. I can go back to everything that was happening around me. It was just so surreal. So it's, I don't know. Did I answer your question? I mean, it's just like these days, what was coming in was okay. And then one of the biggest things was really that there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees in life. And how silly of me to think that I was guaranteed this long life. Like, I planned on living to 100. And then I was just like, hey, it's just not the way it goes. And then everything started changing for me. And I was like, I got 50 years. I'm lucky. this isn't so bad. And then the questions started coming in like, what are my priorities? What is important to me now? What if I only have 2 years to live? What if I have 5 years to live? What if I have 10 years to live? What am I going to do in this shortened life? If this is a shortened life, what becomes important? And I try to hang on to that. That's really for me, that's something that I try to think about regularly. In my morning ritual, when I wake up in the morning, I try to remember, like, what are the things? I kind of had these 3 things that I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to bring into the forefront of everything. So and I never really felt that the cancer was, I felt that it was a teacher. That's for me. I didn't really, I was scared, and I never had a why me feeling. That just didn't occur to me. It just, for me, I said, okay, now we go with this new life. This is like a really sharp turn, and let's see what we do with this. It's just one step at a time. So, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if that.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That level of presence that you talked about, was it new? Was it something you had done yoga for so long, so it wasn't like, were there levels of presence that you felt like you had practiced through yoga even remotely close to the types of presence that you were talking about as you were these days?
That's an interesting question. I think about that sometimes because I felt that I was present. I really felt that I was present in my yoga practice. And I had the moment, I had these really great yoga practices. I'd finish it. I'd be in a yoga practice in the middle and I'd be like, oh, wow, I am fully embodied. Like I feel like I'm relaxed. My mind is clear. I've pushed out the clutter, which for me, it's, my mind is, I've always had a very active mind, and it's hard for me to get out of my mind and to kind of drop down into my heart space, which is another thing why yoga is so appealing to me and to teach, is because so many of us are in our minds, and this is a way to come out and to drop down. And yeah, yoga was, I thought I was present, but I realized now I wasn't. I was still going through motions, and that's, I was more present. And I always say that, like my yoga journey was, I started yoga like, I don't know, 15 years ago. And, actually, I started yoga when my first daughter was born. I did a prenatal yoga class, and I had 2 miscarriages before I got pregnant with my now oldest daughter. And it's funny because, like I was telling you, I was this hyper vigilant person, and in my first 2 pregnancies, I was going to the gym, and I didn't drop anything. I didn't lower my level of vigilance. I didn't lower my intensity. I kept it, and I just was go, 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 hard, hard, hard. I have so many things to do, so many things to accomplish. And so with the 3rd pregnancy, I was like, okay, let's do a prenatal yoga class and see how things go. Let's just bring it down, like bring the level down and just be a little bit more calm and a little bit more, taking more time for myself. So that's where I started with yoga. And then I just realized that I think yoga really resonated with me because I needed it. My inner soul was screaming out for something that could take away some of this pressure, that I was creating for myself. And I think that's, so yoga was definitely that. All the years that I practiced yoga, it was a place where I could go and I could just sort of like let some air out of the tires. The tires were just ready to explode, and I would get on the mat, and then I was like, okay, now I feel normal again. And that was really what kept me going and kept me sort of in the practice, and made me want to take the teacher training, because the teacher training was just diving deeper into all aspects of yoga, the philosophy, the anatomy, the meditation. I wanted to go into all of it, the pranayama, and because my soul was craving this, I needed this, and it was trying to speak to me, but I was still so in my control mode that I wasn't hearing. So, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because when I think about my time in schooling, I don't think anything that we're talking about right now was brought up even a single time. I mean, what is suffering? Why do we suffer? What do we do in the face of death? What does it mean to be happy? What is a good life? Or, I mean, what is presence? What does it mean to be alive? I mean, I am mind blown. I mean, how did I go through so many years of school and the only time it was brought up was when I started taking philosophy, where it was brought up in an intellectual sense, but not in like a real, like, human sense. We learned about what all these thinkers thought about it, but what did just normal humans, like people who didn't just think about it, what did just people, feel? I mean, these are all things that no matter who you are, it is the one thing that connects us all. The richest, the poorest, it doesn't matter what country you live in. These are all very essential parts of the human experience that connect us all. And so I think that's why it's so important to talk to so many different people on this podcast, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with the same things at its core. And so when you talk about presence and you teach about it, and what does that even mean, first of all? What does it, maybe people might hear that word and it's kind of a confusing word altogether, especially if you haven't, learned from a few teachers a vague definition of what is it. But what is presence?
I think for me, it's really being fully with whatever it is you're doing. I mean, as a mother, okay, I have two girls who, they offer so much, like if you just think about your children and what they give you every day, like their thoughts, their jokes, their just how they walk through their life, and how I don't like to say I regret, because I don't want to have regrets, but when they were growing up, there were so many times where I was not present. I didn't hear them. I was just like, I was again in my autopilot, in my automatic mode. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I hear, just saying what you say to your kids when they're saying things, because they're always saying things. And I now, it's funny, it's since my experience, I can be so present with them, and I'm conscious. That's the thing. I think presence is being conscious. Like we are so, I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was an interview with Bruce Lipton. He's an epigenetics guy, and he was talking about how we're 90. So we're kind of programmed in the first 7 years of our lives. We gather all of our information. It comes in, and we that information, which is like the rules and regulations of life, we are actually 90, he says 95% of our life, or our days, we're just taking it from those first 7 years where we learned everything. And only 5% of the time are we conscious. And I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I was thinking it's close. I mean, for so many of us, we're not truly conscious of what we're doing. And when we're sitting with somebody and they're, a friend or somebody, a colleague, and they're speaking to us or with us, and our mind is somewhere else, we're actually going like, oh, what am I doing after this? I have to remember to pick that up at the store. I need to do this. And you're not fully engaged. And it's really a practice. It's a discipline. And I think presence takes a lot of discipline and practice, but it's just being fully engaged in your moments. It's here, it's tasting. It's like sitting down, I think we're all guilty of this. We sit down and we're by ourselves. We're not with people, and we have our phone in front of us, and we're eating and we're looking at our phone, and we're not tasting our food. We're not chewing our food. We're not, mindfulness, presence. This is just like being in these moments, being in nature. Whenever you go for a walk, noticing things. Oh, I had this crazy experience, in springtime in Zurich. The birds go crazy. It's like, it's just, birds are singing in every tree. It's a very green city. I don't know. And it's very biodiverse, I think, for a city. So the birds are going crazy, and I have a dog, and I'm out walking with my dog. But as usual, here I am. I'm up in my mind, and my mind is just churning, and I'm not paying attention to my dog, and I'm not paying attention to the birds. And then I go, I haven't been hearing the birds. I have not, this spring, I tuned into them, and I was like, wow, they are so loud, and I have not heard them. And that's because I wasn't present. I'm out walking, but I'm not present. And this is, you see it all the time. Observe people, I don't know. It's something that it's a bit of I see it as kind of a societal sickness. This busy mind. I have to do this. I have to go there. The wheel, we're just in this wheel. We're just running around like the hamster. And yeah, that's it. Presence for me that's something that, again, I bring into my daily, kind of my daily check-in with myself, be present today.
I very rarely can think of things that I do where I only do it. If I'm working, I'm listening to music. If I'm eating, I'm watching TV. If I'm talking to a friend, I'm going on a walk. I can't. I've been on this mountain for the last month in Japan, and I'm mostly alone. And I think it's been abundantly clear of like my surroundings are very simple and really toned down. And I'm like, wow, my mind is noisy. Like I can't actually just sit there. I can't. It's sad. I can't walk without even talking to a friend. I can't just. I think there's something about the child's mind where I've gone on walks with kids, and they can really just walk. Truly. They truly find every hill to be so engaging. They would have noticed those birds that you were talking about. They would have noticed the colors on them, right? There's this certain sense of awe that exists with the world around them, that in itself is enough. I think what sometimes there's this false perception that if you're like doing multiple things at the same time, you're actually doing them really efficiently. But I think now that I'm realizing now is efficient doesn't always lead to like a beautiful internal experience of whatever it is you're doing. And oftentimes it doesn't. Yes, could you perhaps maybe get things done faster if you were to do 2 or 3 things at the same time? Maybe, sometimes. But that feeling of feeling connected, even when you're folding your clothes or washing your dishes, to do that with your full mind there can actually be such a rewarding experience that you start to realize, like, maybe I don't need $1 million home. Maybe it's not about the things that I own, but it's about my relationship with the things that I do. And I think that completely changes the way that you navigate in the world. And perhaps you'd become a really bad capitalist, maybe, and that might impact your ability to be on the hamster wheel, which seems to drive so many things in society at large. But it's interesting because I think in your story, you still seem to have lived a life that was present before the cancer. How do you think your experience of presence changed before and after the diagnoses?
I love your questions. This is really good because it's yeah. So many of my students, whenever I talk to my students or friends about my experience, they're just always like, but you're so relaxed, and you're so,
Yeah.
you're just like, you are the yoga teacher because, in the way you live your life and, the things you're doing. And, I see you with your kids. I see you with your dog. You're just, you're the most relaxed person I know. And, I just think that there are different levels of it. And now it's stepping into this level that, like I said, or earlier, it was before we started recording when we were chatting in the beginning, this hero's journey that I'm on in my dance therapy course with Movement for Life. I'm now in this where I've just I've moved along the path in this journey. I'm on the next step. And that is really, it's realizing that this journey just can go so deep if you let it. You can spend your whole life deepening every experience out there. Learning, like what you just said about children. I love what you just said about going on a walk with children. Like we can learn so much from them. And this process of we get older and we realize things, like we realize that these children are teaching us things. My dog, when I go on a walk with my dog, I sometimes look at him and I'm just like, I need to just live my life like him. He knows exactly how to do this. He sniffs a dog and he's like, not interested. I'm going to move on to the next one. And then he finds a dog he likes and he's like jumping up and down and he's happy and they're sniffing and they run off and they play. And this is like, we can learn so much from all these experiences in our life and all these people in our life, and just constantly deepening and deepening this. Yeah. I don't know. It's so inspirational to me that it's never ending. And it just keeps getting better and better.
I like that example that you brought up with your dog. One of my students was actually telling me really something interesting. He was like, I always look at my dog and I realize he doesn't have words to understand his experience. He just understands his experience through images. And we kind of looked a little bit about that. And it just stuck with me because I was like, why have I never looked at a dog and thought about that? Like they don't have words to understand their experience. And I think the reason I bring this up is because so much of schooling is intellectualizing you to be able to understand the world around you through words, through imagery, to kind of connect it to something that you quote unquote know so that you can understand exactly why it's happening. But it's not really teaching you to experience the thing. I mean, it's not teaching you to experience the leaf falling without being like, well, it's falling at 9.8, meters per second squared, but, because of the air, it's probably slower. It makes you understand it, but not experience it. And so understanding is also very important. But how do you think we can kind of merge the two? Because I'm thinking that a lot of the people who come to your yoga classes also probably try to learn it the same way they learned math, science, or physics, where they're like, let me try to intellectualize how to do yoga. What does yoga mean? How to be a good yoga person? And how do I tell people I do yoga well, right? I mean, it still becomes an intellectual process. What have you found to be effective ways to teach the unintellectualizing of like these things so you can start to experience?
Well, I think there's so much to going inside the body. Oh, we're okay. You were frozen for a second. I was just, there's so much of, I think that we want to go inside the body and we want to, when we can feel what's happening, I feel like it's so much easier to come into the experience. So like I'm doing a lot of, when I'm teaching a yoga class, I really I'm reminding constantly and stay with your breath. Deep inhale, slow exhale, inhale, reach up, exhale, arms come down. It's just every movement is a breath movement. And the reason we do this is so that we are focused on the breath. We're not in the mind, because if you don't connect to the breath, I think you can go through all the yoga poses, movements, and still be very much going like, oh, what else do I need to put on my to-do list? So you really have to bring this awareness into the body. Press your large toe onto the mat, press your heel, it's really about feeling, this whole tapping, exercise that people do. You can tap your chest, you can tap your arms, you can really to feel yourself. And this is for people who are really, in their minds a lot. They're really quite, active and intellectual, tapping is really good for this. I mean, if you're not embodied, then this is a good thing to do to bring this feeling of I am here. And I think then, at least my experience has been this connection to breath, connection to feeling my body, feeling how things work in my body. This is really, I think this starts to open up then the intuition. And I think that then we have like another experience, because I think children, I mean, one of the things that I think is missing in education is that we are not teaching kids to listen to themselves, like to trust themselves and to follow their instincts. You know, if Johnny is being aggressive on the playground, Susie needs to like stand up for herself and not take it on, you know, like just to be, I don't know, to trust yourself. I mean, this is something that I think we have to teach children, that they can trust themselves. They don't have to listen to what everybody else is telling them to do. Of course, we want to teach, we need to teach. We can't take that to the extreme of, oh, I don't listen to anybody but myself, because we have to teach them, but tuning into the inner voice and hearing this. But first we have to be embodied. First we have to be able to go inside and to know, have some kind of a conversation with the voice, you know. And that's not taught. I mean, I think some schools, I think these more progressive schools are starting to teach mindfulness, and there's yoga, but most of the public schools I know of are not doing these kind of teachings, having these classes where kids can begin to get in touch with their inner voices. You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In some of your experiences, I'm really curious to understand. I mean, it's terribly unfortunate for me because I only started really ever conceptualizing dying after I started taking an existentialism class, where it was the first time death was actually like presented in coursework. It was like, this is something that's going to happen to you. What does that mean? And I was very taken aback in that course because I was just like, why? I don't understand. I mean, I've seen it in front of me and it's impacted me profoundly, but I've never actually thought about what it meant for me. Like you said earlier, like I work out, it's not going to happen to me. I'm going to somehow avoid it. And to this day, I sometimes have that belief. This conversation has been really grounding because I think I often am existing in this plane where I'm like, okay, if I work hard enough, if I like do all these things, I eat right, whatever, I'm just going to escape death. It actually will not happen to me. And I really do navigate the world with this kind of mindset. But it's wrong. It's not true. I'm actually not avoiding it. And even thinking about that can be so overwhelming sometimes. Learning how to handle and confront that is so important, because I think that's often why we avoid some of these things in schools, because it's a lot. A 10-year-old or a 12 or 14-year-old might, be terrified by the fact that. So oftentimes when you look at the English books and the literature that we read, we read about other people dying. Oh, his best friend died. You learn how to handle death as if it's something that only happens to others and you just experience others dying. But I don't think I've read a book ever until I read this beautiful book called When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanidhi. I don't know if you've read it, but it's by this amazing neuroscientist who gets brain cancer, and he's like a MD, PhD, like the top of the chain in what he does. And he was like, I couldn't figure out how to solve this. Something I've studied my whole life, I didn't know. And he writes his book in his last few weeks, and it's a really beautiful book. But it's the first time I read death as something that was happening to the person themselves, not just to the world around them. And so learning to actually confront this, I think, is such an important human aspect. Otherwise, perhaps that might even be the reason we're on those hamster wheels. This might be the carrot that we're, instead of running to, running away from. And that's what's making us on that wheel forever. And I think once you confront it, which looks like, I think it's easy to say to confront it, but confronting is actually very challenging. To really confront it, then I think perhaps you can step off the hamster wheel. What was that process like for you? when you first found out to how did you kind of process and accept it? That it's a possibility, maybe even.
Well, I think, let's see. Whenever I was thinking about dying, it's funny how everything just kind of just gets realigned. Like it's just like, okay, everything just shifted. Okay, we're thinking about life in a different way now. And for me, it was really all of the sudden faced with my mortality, and I felt like now I just need to change my I have to change the way I'm going to look at the next years. Like I could live for 2 years. It could be that I get another 2 years, and that's great. I'll take those 2 years, but it's just it's just going to be a different, kind of priority. And then if I have 10 years, what am I going to do now? It's just it's a shift of what is important. But the theme that is going through, like living 2, 5, or 10 years, because those were always my numbers, 2, 5, or 10, is that what you were talking about, like we are doing all of these things to live a long, healthy life where we think we're doing it all right so that we can live this life and fit in everything we want to do. In the 2, 5, or 10 years, it's no longer about that. I don't care about that anymore. That was my focus for the first 50 years of my life. I just wanted to, do all the things I wanted to do and be healthy and eat the right foods and meet the right people. But it just shifts right away. It shifts to consciousness, presence. I need to be in my moments. My moments are the most precious things in my life. And whenever I get to the end of my life, at the end of my life, I'm not going to be asking myself, was I efficient enough? Like, did I get everything done that I needed to get done? No, I'm going to be asking myself, did you enjoy your moments? And I know we hear this. If you read these kinds of, all of these books about a better life, they're all saying that. I mean, we hear that time and time again, but we don't practice it. And then when you're faced with something like a breast cancer diagnosis, or even just some kind of acute illness, I think you just start. It just changes the way you see. Yeah, it just changes the way you see those days, those moments. I mean, I've always been the kind of person who has. I don't want to waste a day. I'm like, today's a new day. Let's make the most out of it. What are we going to do? And how do we approach the day? But I've always been that kind of person, but now it's just a different tone. It's like, it's okay to spend the day alone. I'm with me, and I'm going to make the most of this experience. Like, I think it's so interesting. You're mostly by yourself right now, because I also, I'm in this situation now where my husband and I are separated, and we have a second apartment, and I'm also seeing a therapist, a psychotherapist. And the day that I moved into my apartment, I had an appointment with my therapist, and he said, Carly, you're going to have more time for yourself, because my husband and I do 1 week on, 1 week off. We're doing this nesting, this kind of nesting in and out, flying in and out of the nest. And he said, you're going to find that you may feel lonely. You may feel this urge to go out and do things, or to call somebody up, or to watch something, or to, do the things that we do whenever we're lonely. He said, don't do those things. Go into your feelings. Like, if you feel lonely, what's that feel like for you? What is loneliness for you? And dive into it, taste it, feel it, know what it is, and see what you can learn from it. And that has been amazing. Like, to be able to go into, I mean, I had days where I was crying, and it was just darkness. I just felt so much darkness, and facing myself, facing the lies that I tell myself, all the things that the pain from my childhood, from my past, facing all of those things. But I am so much better for it now. I haven't been distracting myself. I've been going into that. And that's what I plan to keep doing. That's what I want to keep doing. It's such an amazing journey. But people are so afraid. They don't want to go there because it's painful. It hurts. We don't like suffering. But I really think that if you go into the suffering, it's the only way you're going to be able to swing into joy. You know, you go, it's like a pendulum. You know, if you go, you're either going to be up or you're going to be down. So if you swing down into suffering, you're going to swing back eventually into joy. But most of us just want to stay really in the middle. We just, we don't want to feel that suffering, but we don't have that, but then we don't get to experience the joy. I think that for me, that's how I like to see it. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in some of the things that you're saying. I'm feeling where my youth is getting in way of like true. I just have not. I think it's something I'm learning now. I'm 26, and I even now feel like, okay, I have enough experiences on my belt to understand some of these things a little bit more practically. They're not all so theoretical as they were maybe 8 years ago. But I mean, by the time I turn 40 or 50 or 60, I mean, the amount of experiences that you can tie these things to would be so vast that they no longer are theory at all. I mean, even as we talk about suffering and things, I'm just like, there's so much suffering in front of me. And so like, no matter how much I talk about it now, I know I'm still on the theoretical side of it to this day. I mean, learning how to confront this reality is so important, but yet I think we spend so much of our lives running away from it. And I think there's something really beautiful about what you said about truly sitting there. I mean, it's something I'm thinking about now, how many people even as you were talking, there was like an icky feeling within me because I was reflecting on it, and I feel like I've been using so many people to like help me escape my loneliness. And it's been very much like, please pick up the phone because I'm really lonely and I would love to like connect with someone. And so it's actually this relationship formed out of neediness rather than, and I've made a lot of bad decisions getting connected and needy to the people who I should not have been, and now when I think about it, I'm like, if I had just sat there in that moment of aloneness, I mean, even when this podcast ends, I'm like, don't listen. I'm going to listen to music. I know it's coming, but I'm like, will I be able to, I need to make some food. Will I be able to, without listening to music, just cook? And I'm afraid of that. What am I so afraid? What do you think it is that what is it that we're afraid of? What am I afraid of? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just discomfort. I mean, it doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to be something that's really a grand, like it's something really, really scary and horrible. It doesn't have to be a trauma. I think it can just be simply that it's just a little, I don't like, that icky feeling. Like you said, it's just that icky feeling. I don't want to feel that icky feeling. So I'm going to distract myself with something. And I think, they say that the social media is just like, it's this is the thing that we can go to, and we can really like look at all those nice images of people doing things that take our minds off of icky feelings. And I honestly, I was drinking. I was honestly, I mean, I don't claim to be an alcoholic, but I was having my daily 2 to 3 glasses of wine. My husband and I would split a bottle of wine several times a week. And this is also not good for, if you want to avoid getting cancer, I think that people will say sometimes, especially for women, that drinking it's a very good idea to remove alcohol from your patterns, because I think, again, this vigilance, this, me needing to control things, the drinking at the end of the day, I never felt like I needed to drink. I had to drink. It wasn't a physical addiction, but it was okay, this is how I'm going to relax at the end of the day. So I'm going to have this glass of wine or these 2 or 3 glasses of wine to, again, just like release some of that pressure. And distraction, also distraction. So I think that's, so it's social media and it's alcohol and it's calling up the friends and it's all of these things, we're just doing all of these things to get away. And I think for a lot of people, it is to get away from trauma. If you have trauma, if you have something really that has, happened in your life, you're not going to want to go there. It's painful and it's something you've experienced before, it's not comfortable. So we do what we can to stay away from that. But I haven't suffered so much in my life. I'd say the first 50 years of my life, I had myself convinced that everything was fine. I'm fine. It's all good. Everything's good. I'm in control. And so I didn't feel suffering then, but now it's like I want to heal myself. Like healing cancer is not just physical. I think it's, I have to do the emotional, I have to do the mental, I have to do the spiritual, I have to touch on all aspects. It's, in Western medicine is great. I'm so thankful that I had everything, all the treatments that I had to get. I had a complete pathological response to the chemo. So I had triple negative breast cancer. That's an aggressive cancer. It grows fast. It doesn't have a receptor. That a lot of breast cancers, you can target medicine to the breast cancer, to the receptors. Triple negative breast cancer, you have to use a broad spectrum chemotherapy medication. And you just hope for the best. And it's a 50-50 chance. So it's flip the coin, you live or you die. I was lucky. Many aren't. And I just lost my train of thought. What was I? I forget where I was going with that.
You were talking about the being lucky, how it kind of ties back to like the holistic aspect of it, not just physical health, but also mental health, spiritual health.
Okay, thank you. And so so there's the Western medicine. It does what it needs to do, and I would not have gone through this journey without using that. But I came out of it, and I was very lucky. Everything worked for me. All the treatments worked, but I knew deep inside of my heart that there were other areas that I needed to look at. I had to go deep into, especially the emotional. I think the emotional is, I think it's very much connected to our health and our well-being. So that's where I am right now. That's what I'm healing and that's what I'm working on. And it's tough. And it's a long road. It's not something that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in June 2023, and we're only a year and 4 months past that. And look at me, I'm healthy. I feel great. I'm knock on wood. It's going well. But this emotional part of it, it's going to be much longer than 1 year and 4 months. I think it's going to be 10 years. So, but the work it's worth it. It's worth it. And wow. I think it's part of the full healing, I think I sometimes believe myself that if we don't do all of these areas of healing, I could get sick again, it could come again. So I'm motivated.
And I think sometimes the hard thing to do is to have that mindset before whatever it is comes to. There are certain habits that I have in my life where I'm like, if I continue this, I know that it's not going to lead to great things in the future. But it seems like, I'll just kick the stone down the road, I'll deal with it later. And then later comes and then it hits you. And then all of a sudden you're like, why did I not do this earlier? And I think that is where a lot of wisdom comes. Can you implement some of these good habits to just to the best of your efforts to kind of, take care of your future self, or the earlier the better, whether it's your financial health, whether it's your physical, mental, emotional health, there's so many different things that you can be slightly more conscious of to protect yourself from the future. But what I'm really hearing in this conversation is this importance that's, you talked about it with the health, we talked about it with even the benefits of yoga, but it's this importance placed on not just the, how quickly can you do something, how like well can you do something, and defining well just based on the outcome alone, but really asking, what is your relationship with the thing that you're doing? It's not just who can run the mile fastest, but who has the most like connected experience of running while they run. I mean, that's not never even talked about, right? I mean, it's just who runs the fastest, whoever runs the fastest did it the best. But that's only one aspect of it. The person who loves running and finds joy in running, whether they run a mile in 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. There's something so beautiful about a person who finds joy in the activity, in the essence of it itself. And I hear that in the stuff that we talked about in terms of education, but also when we talk about health, when we hit these walls, rather than just being like, how do I solve this? Can we like think about the entire experience of the struggle, the suffering? Can we turn it into something that means something to us, right? I mean, it's all these perspective shifts, and I think it's a really important part of education that unfortunately I think is completely missed on. Not even like a little. It's just not there. And so I think it's something that really needs to be brought into the forefront to talk more seriously about. So thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think that suffering is, in Buddhism, that's the first noble truth is life is suffering. And I think that, I don't know, I don't know Asian culture so well, but I think that probably if you're teaching children from the very beginning that life is suffering, then suffering comes and it's not like, oh no, everything is terrible, I'm going to lay down on the floor and I'm just going to cry because I don't know what to do. I think, if you accept the fact that there is suffering in life, I mean, we all know that there is suffering in life, then as it comes, we just take it as it comes, and it sort of, we can sort of absorb it and not have it like crash into us. And I think that's a really important lesson, that we might want to consider. I know we don't want to bog down our kids with life is suffering. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so terrible. Just wait till you see. I mean, this world is not easy. Of course, we don't want to send that message to them, but they also need to know. And I think there's an age where it can be introduced, because children should live in their fantasies. They should live in the kind of their Disney world where everything is just beautiful and people are happy and people are smiling. But then there's an age where they come into reality, and you can start to talk to them about what life really is, and it's something to consider. Yeah. Another topic for you.
No, and to add to that, I think one thing that really stuck out to me is the most beautiful smiles are not the ones that of people smiling in Disneyland, but it's a person who smiles in front of whatever it is that they're going through, no matter how difficult. I mean, that smile speaks a million times louder than a person who's smiling on Molly or whatever. It's just different, because I think, which is why I think beauty and all those things only really have their power in context of everything else that exists in these like utopic worlds that I think sometimes we try to present for our kids. None of these things have meaning. I mean, to be happy in a world where everything is great is it's kind of empty. It's not all that great. But there are so many people who are joyful, so many artists and creatives and people who dedicate their lives to doing, cancer research and because I don't know, they find that passion and motivation to live in front of the absurdity of life. And I think that's what makes it beautiful, rather than it somehow making it, I don't know, that context, I think, is, I didn't have that context for so long in my life. And I'm like, that's why nothing made sense to me, because the context, but now, yeah.
Did you see the film A Perfect Day?
No.
Did you see that film? Oh, it's a great film. It's it actually takes place in Tokyo, and it's just about a man who you're just following him through his days, and he cleans the public toilets in Tokyo, and he goes about it with just like this pride in his job, and this, you see that he's doing this basically the same thing every day, but with so much the the rituals that he has in his life, it's such a beautiful, he waters his plants and he gets his coffee out of the machine, and he just listens to like some cool music when he's driving to work. And it's just such a nice way to think of life. Like, there is a lot of monotony in life. I mean, life can be very boring, and it can be kind of like the same old, same old, same old. I tell my kids this all the time. I'm like, don't expect fireworks every day. Your life is like just doing your routine. You do your routine day after day after day. And then sometimes something nice is mixed in with that. But, this movie is fabulous for that, for just knowing that, life is, I don't know. I think that it's, I think we're doing a disservice to kids if we teach them that the sky's the limit and you're going to have a beautiful life and everything's going to be wonderful, because it's good. It's how you see it, but there are different lessons that need to be learned so that you can have that joy, that feeling of, peace and just being centered in yourself. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it reminded me of this one TV show. It's called F is for Family. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
They have this, I think they have one of the best title sequences in the world. But it basically, it's that song by Bill Withers, The Lovely Day.
Yes,
and
I love
while
that.
While they have it, the way, it's a really quick, it's actually very short, 30 seconds. This is how it works. It's this guy, it's actually Bill Burr. I don't know if the comedian, but he's the voice actor. It's an animated show. And so the main character, he's a dad. He like leaves, he graduates high school, I think. And he has all these like, and so that's when the song starts, Lovely Day. And he has all these like visions of what he wants to do and all these things. And then he gets drafted. And then it like, so all these things of life just like come hit him. They're all like things. So the draft hits him, and then he gets hit with like, marriage, and then he gets hit with the kids, and then he gets hit with the loans and the debt, and then he like crashes into his home, and he's like on his couch with his family. And I feel like even in a lot of what you're saying, right? I mean, it's that we learned about it in the Aikido classes, also in Kaleido, where it's like when you're not prepared for the thing that's going to hit you, that impact is far more than if you're like that. It's coming. I see it coming. I know it's coming. I know it's a part of life. Let me also figure out a way to like every time it comes, dance gracefully around it, rather than being like, it's coming, right? I mean,
Right.
Even that title sequence of everything hitting him, I think speaks so much to how we do kind of build these fake worlds for myself. And I'm like, what part of my beliefs are fake? I'm like trying to really just imagine. I'm like, what part of reality has not hit me yet? And I think life is beautiful, but it also, the tragedy of it is, I don't know what makes it so rich, I don't know.
Yes, of course. Like, the yin and the yang, right?
Yeah.
We have both sides.
This was an amazing conversation. There's so much more to get into, but I just want to say thank you so much. This was very vulnerable, and I think a really important conversation for us to add on this podcast. I want to say thank you so much for sharing and letting your experiences be something we can all learn from, because it's hard to share, and I understand, but really thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. It was so nice to see you again. And even off podcast, I want to stay in touch. It was like great to talk with you, and thank you for your wisdom. I mean, you really bring so much wisdom to the table at 26 years old. It's incredible. And it's funny, I've been meeting a lot of people. Like one of my best friends is 31, and she just never ceases to amaze me, this wisdom that we can have at such a young age. And can you imagine when you're 50?
I mean, no, it makes me so excited to think sometimes. I get really excited about living for that.
You're on a great path, really.
Oh, thank you. That means actually, thank you. That means a lot. And that brings us to the end of our conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you again for listening and making this process so much more enjoyable. If you haven't had the chance to already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts to get the latest updates on new episodes. If you've been learning useful information here, feel free to leave a review as well. A little bit goes a long way in spreading this podcast. And have a wonderful day. And as per usual, stay re-educated.